Hello, it's Dania and welcome to my channel all about real estate and business. Currently, I work in Gold Coast as a real estate salesperson, so I know all the things about the current market trends, especially in these trying times. And the number one question I get when I do my buyer calls or my prospecting is that what's going on with the market, what's been happening, how has the current pandemic been affecting the entire real estate industry, our house is being sold, is a good time to sell. So I'm going to be talking about the market in these current videos, so if that's something that you're interested in, please continue watching. So everyone is generally under the assumption that because this pandemic hit and it's been seen in previous trends over previous financial crises and economic crises that happened globally, that the property market does get affected. Real estate in general holds pretty well with respect to the fact that prices stay the same. So the really interesting thing that I love to tell my clients is that the median price of properties throughout the quarters from last year to this year has actually remained stable. For example, houses sold in Broadbeach Waters for approximately 1.25 million as the median price off the top of my head. That stayed stable, but the thing that changed is the number of houses sold. We saw a 75% drop in the number of houses sold across multiple suburbs on the Gold Coast. So if there was 100 houses sold per quarter as a trend over the past year, in the second quarter of this year, which ended in July, there was 25 houses sold for that suburb. So there's been a drastic change that we've all seen and that we've all been impacted by, that there are a reduced number of houses being sold in the market. So why has the median price stayed the same? Well, to understand this, you have to understand the fundamental principles of supply and demand. If there's a huge amount of supply, it's overloading. Say you have 1,000 houses that need to be sold and you only have 2 buyers, you're going to market that house very, very low in order to attract that buyer to your house. On the contrary, if there was really not many houses, say there was 5 houses being sold and 1,000 buyers were competing for it, those prices would skyrocket because everyone would be bidding higher and higher and higher in order to grab that house. So when the supply or the demand is off, that means that the price will change with respect to what's higher, supply or demand. When supply meets the demand, say there's 100 houses on the market and there's 100 potential buyers, those buyers will only pay for what that house is worth. Nothing more, nothing less. When supply meets demand, everyone's expectations are met. So with this pandemic, what's happening for it to cause the median price to stay the same? On the seller side, it's just fear. People are scared to sell in these times because they're unsure, they're uncertain of what's going to happen in the next few months. Is there a second wave going to come? They're genuinely just out of fear, not wanting to sell their house. On the buyer side, it's more logistically, borders are closed. So, for example, I saw property on the Gold Coast in the 2 biggest cities, which is Surfers Paradise and Broadbeach. Those are units, they're not owner occupied. It's usually investors from Sydney and Melbourne purchase Gold Coast properties and they don't occupy it. They usually put it out for a permanent rental or a holiday let. So we have tons and tons of buildings filled with apartments and units that these investors purchase into. So the reason why my specific area and why the city of Gold Coast sales are down, which is representative of a lot of other cities as well, is because borders are shut. These investors actually can't come across the border to inspect the properties and see if that's worth an investment. I've made hundreds of calls with the buyers interstate and the biggest response that I get is, call me back once borders are open. Call me back once the pandemic is over. I can't inspect the property. So That's why buyers aren't buying. But despite that, another reason, even if you aren't an investor, and even if you live in the same state, it's just like with this whole notion, people are expecting prices to drop. So why would you pay the same for a house that you would when there wasn't a pandemic? People are waiting for houses to drop prices, and therefore the buyer pool has decreased significantly because people are simply just sitting on the fence and seeing what happens to the market. So not only are sellers unwilling to sell, buyers are unwilling to buy. Another factor that adds into all of this equation is that buyers don't have the luxury of choosing between a multitude of properties and weighing up their pros and cons. They have a limited stock, and if they don't think that that stock meets up to their standard, they're just not going to buy at all or even search in these times because they know that nothing's on the market. If you've been looking at the market for a while, you'd notice the huge drop in the amount of people that are even advertising or listing their houses, let alone them being sold to this reduced number of buyers. So at the end of the day, it's a pretty messy situation for both the sellers and the buyers, but I hope I provided you with some insight onto why the prices actually haven't dropped and they're staying pretty stable. It's basically the principle of supply and demand. If you have any other property questions or you're excited to see more real estate videos, feel free to subscribe to my channel and like this video. I post all about real estate and business and how to save your money, where to invest it into. So if that's something that you're interested in, make sure to turn those bell notifications on, and I shall see you next time on my channel.